Here we are at the Wallace Trail. But just who was Wallace and why is there a trail named after him? When we talk about evolution, Charles Darwin comes naturally to mind. But did you know there was another English biologist who was intensely thinking about how animals evolve? His name was Alfred Russel Wallace.
Wallace was a British biologist who traveled to many parts of the world to study flora and fauna extensively in the 19th century. In 1854, Wallace set out from Singapore and began an 8-year expedition exploring Southeast Asia. Throughout his journey, he collected over 125,000 specimens of insects, birds, shells, mammals, and reptiles.
Wallace's impressive collection is important to biologists even today. It provides essential information about species and their variation in Singapore and the rest of Southeast Asia. Here we are at the Dairy Farm Nature Park in Singapore. From this area alone, Wallace collected over 700 species of beetles for his research. The Wallace Trail at Dairy Farm Nature Park is named after Alfred Russel Wallace to honor his many contributions. Come follow me as we retrace his footsteps from 200 years ago. Wallace described his time in Singapore as one of his most productive for the collection of beetles. When Wallace was here, this area was being actively logged, and the beetles that he was after lay their eggs in dead logs and branches. And so this became a place where so many beetles living here, and Wallace was able to take advantage of that. Oh wow, here's a very tiny but very beautiful beetle. But you might be asking, how do I know it's a beetle? Well, beetles have 2 pairs of wings, but in the case of beetles, the flying pair of wings are folded and they're covered by a modified outer pair of wings, also known as elytra. Now, beetles turn out to be the most diverse family of animals on the entire planet, and they're all different kinds of beetles, but Wallace was after one type of beetle in particular, and these are known as the longhorn or longicorn beetles. I'm a botanist by training, so actually one of my favorite parts of the Malay Archipelago is an illustration, a lithograph that appears in the book, in which there is a drawing of a tree just like this. It's clearly a ficus or a banyan, very much like the one we see here behind me. And Wallace is able to describe it as a strange jungle tree. So clearly botany wasn't one of Wallace's strong points. In 1854, when Wallace was in Singapore, the wholesale transformation of the island was already well underway. In fact, we may have lost over 50% of our original species over the past 200 years. Singapore, though, aims to become a city in nature. To do this, we've implemented a forest restoration action plan that will enhance and link currently separated ecosystems to create a more connected, robust, and resilient ecosystem well into the future. Wallace was also known as the father of biogeography. Why? During his field work, Wallace noticed an abrupt division, literally almost like a line, that separated animal species of the area into 2 distinct geographical zones.
This line, which runs through Indonesia between Borneo and Sulawesi and along the Lombok Strait between Bali and Lombok, was later known as the Wallace Line. Interestingly, the Wallace Line divided the 3 subclasses of mammals. Placental mammals dominate in Asia, while marsupials and monotremes are found mainly in the Australasian region. To the west of the Wallace Line, mammalian species have placentas that allow embryos to complete their development inside of the mother's body. Marsupials such as kangaroos and wallabies are found on the east side of the Wallace Line. These animals typically raise their newborn offspring in external body pouches. Monotremes, which are mammals that lay eggs, such as platypuses, are mostly found in Australia too. Likewise, for plants, you may find the Malaysian palms distributed largely on the west of the Wallace Line, and eucalyptus, native to Australia, to the east of the Wallace Line. However, floral distinction is not as clear and does not follow the Wallace Line to the same extent as fauna.
These observations by Wallace provided evidence for one of the best known and most significant biogeographical lines in the world. For this, Wallace was dubbed the father of biogeography. Wallace also realized that species living in a given habitat also have similar characteristics.
For example, the coloration of the tiger beetles. He found that they matched the color of their environment. Beetles that were of a different color would have been more obvious to predators, and this would lower their likelihood to survive, let alone produce offspring.
Wallace concluded that individual organisms must be under intense and constant pressure in environments with finite resources. It was almost as if there was an invisible driving force for evolution. And this driving force we've come to know as natural selection.
Wallace sent his ideas to Darwin, and Darwin realized that their findings were highly similar. This spurred Darwin to write his famous book, On the Origin of Species.
Wallace, the lesser-known co-founder of the theory of evolution, published quite a few landmark books of his own. His best-known work is the Malay Archipelago, and today we have in our possession what for me is a sacred book, a first edition copy of the Malay Archipelago. Let's go take a look.
The Lee Kong Chian Natural History Museum in NUS is Singapore's only natural history museum. It houses more than 2,000 animal and plant specimens on display.
This is a first edition of Wallace's best-known work, the Malay Archipelago. It was published in 1869. In my opinion, it's the most important book ever published on the natural history of Southeast Asia.
Wallace's most notable book, the Malay Archipelago, chronicles his scientific exploration in Singapore and other parts of Southeast Asia and New Guinea.
Here at the museum, we can also find this bird specimen from Wallace's collection, the Asian brown flycatcher. This is a typical Wallace label. The scientific name of the bird, Muscicapa laterostris, and the collecting location, Malacca, were written in what appears to be Wallace's handwriting. And over here, this specimen, Wallace's standardwing, a kind of bird of paradise, is named after Wallace. It's probably one of his most iconic discoveries. See that red stripe across the top of Wallace's label? It actually indicates that it was a specimen from his private collection, not one that he'd intended to sell. Of course, Wallace could not have amassed this incredible collection on his own. Many of his specimens were collected with the help of his assistant, Ali.
Ali was a teenage boy from Sarawak. He started out as a cook, but quickly picked up the necessary skills in specimen collection. He often helped Wallace to shoot and preserve bird specimens.
Today, a statue of Wallace and his trusted assistant Ali stands in front of the Lee Kong Chian Natural History Museum. See if you can find the second hidden part of the statue. They're actually pointing to a sculpture of Wallace's standardwing. Wallace's invaluable research here in Singapore and the rest of Southeast Asia were pivotal to him independently arriving at the same conclusions as Charles Darwin. The presence here of artifacts from the co-founder of the theory of evolution are a reflection of our rich natural heritage and also a proud part of Singapore's scientific legacy.